All right, I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to number 3, any changes or additions to the agenda?
The only change that we wanted to make was on item 10, A, to change it from PDR resolution to PDR discussion.
Move agenda as amended. Support. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that's the agenda. All right, we need approval of the minutes from January 8th. I got a motion and support. All in favor, signify aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. All right, we're moving on to number 5, limited public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody has any comments, please come up to the podium. All right, seeing none. We'll move on to item number 6, the road commission.
Good morning. It's my twice a year I get to come here and talk to you guys, and you guys get to grill me and give me a rough time. So here I am for your pleasure. Yeah, I'm just gonna go over a few things. I did send some things out. So I'm gonna kind of go over the 2024 projects first, then hit the 25 information, and then open it for questions from there. So again, you have the map that should cover all this, but in 2024, for the millage, so last year was the 10th year of the millage, we have 2 years left this year, and then 2026, that will complete it. We're doing half of what's left this year essentially, so we'll have half left next year and we'll be done. So we'll complete it and do everything we said we would do. Obviously, I'm gonna have to start looking at renewing a millage or something along those lines. Probably won't be a renewal, I guess. But yeah, stay tuned because I got to come up with something, and you guys will obviously be involved in that. So we did 78 miles of gravel last year, about 7.5 miles of rural paved projects, and about 8.5 miles of subdivisions. I did not have the financial summary yet, so because this got moved up a month, typically our reports aren't done until the end of February. So I don't have that information that you would typically see to kind of see how much we've spent. But I can pass that along and we'll forward on the reports when we have them, which will include all that information. The only subdivision that didn't get done that was on the plan was Grand Point subdivision, just south of Diamonddale, if anybody knows where that's at. They're trying to secure some funding to extend the water main through the subdivision. And so they talked to us, said, hey, can you delay your paving? And then once they do the water main, then we'll come in and do the 2 inches on that at that point. So it'll save them a little money, not having to pave the entire thickness, and we're doing the same work anyway, and so we just delayed it. So it may happen this year. It could possibly happen next year if they do the water main this year. I haven't heard recently, but something I'll have to work on and find out. So on the countywide project map, that also includes the millage projects on that map. We did about almost 60 miles of chip seal this year, 14.5 miles of paving, resurfacing, and about 2.5 miles of crush and shape. So quite a bit of work this year. The work on local roads we did 19 miles of chip seal on local roads. We're trying to have a preventative maintenance program to keep the roads in good shape. And that's probably, if I look at doing another millage for the roads, that's probably that will be able to be maintenance, things like that. It won't be repaving everything, reconstructing anything, kind of like we did last time. So it'll be more, hey, let's keep them in good shape. We spent all this money, and now they're just kind of sitting there falling apart. So. And we did one local road bridge, Smithville Bridge, preventative maintenance on that to extend the life of that bridge. And then on culverts, we did one culvert on Green Road that had failed, so we had to replace that. That was in cooperation with Walton Township. They paid 50% of those costs. We replaced a bunch of small culverts on the projects, the millage projects, primary projects, whatever we did. We go through ahead of time, replace the smaller culverts. And we did replace 5 county drain culverts this year through cooperation with the drain office. We have a program where they come up with a size, they essentially tell me what they want in there. Saves us from having to go through the Eagle permitting process. We're essentially replacing it for the drain office. So it's a cooperative effort that we've started with the drain office, and so far it's been going very well. We have 2 more this year, at least 2 more this year, possibly 3 that'll follow that same program. So it's much quicker. The Eagle permitting process could take 6 months. It's a lot of time and effort and cost, so. 2025 projects, so you have a map on the millage map and the countywide map as well. This is what we have planned. About 9 miles of subdivision paving, 3 miles of rural paving. The rural paving has gotten a lot less because got most of them done, so there's not that many left to do. But the gravel has increased a lot. We're gonna do 84 miles of re-gravel this year. And again, 2 applications of dust control like we do every year. On the countywide map, we're gonna do around 60 miles of chip seal and then an additional 10 miles of skin patch and seal. It's essentially a chip seal, but we're gonna put a thin layer of asphalt first to help smooth it out and get rid of some of the dips and bumps and things like that. So it's a chip seal, but a better chip seal essentially. About 6 miles of milling and paving. And we have 4 bridges that are gonna get preventative maintenance on them. If you ask me, they're on the map, but if you ask me, I probably can't tell you which 4 they are off the top of my head. Two big projects. So we had 2 big projects this year that were gonna be somewhere between $3 and $5 million. One was 5 Point, Mauer to Matthews through Creepy Swamp, if everybody knows that area. That between the design and the Eagle permitting and all that stuff, that project's not gonna happen. It'll probably start this fall. In order to construct Creepy Swamp, keep it from settling, we're gonna have to slowly load it over time. And it may take 6 months to load it and then load it to wait. So it's gonna be closed for a bit while that's happening. Sounds like that can happen through the winter is what my consultant's telling me. So that may happen through the winter, and then in the summer 26 is when we'll reconstruct it, pave it, and get it back open, so. And then the Webster Road Bridge, that will be delayed until next year. MDOT Environmental Group essentially has delayed it because they want us to dig and look for artifacts, apparently. I'll keep my comments to myself. And then we'll do some work that's not on the map in Delta Township. I just haven't had time to look into that yet. So again, this is a little earlier. Next year I'll plan ahead for this, but it kind of got moved up a month. I didn't have time to get into all that stuff yet, so. Same thing with the culverts. Like I said, we're gonna replace 2 county drain culverts through the drain office process that we've come up with, and a bunch of smaller culverts. We already replaced some of them last year, and we'll continue into spring to get ready for upcoming projects. I also handed out the local road heavy maintenance program. That's the match program. We have the townships. They can pay 50%, select a project, and then we'll match 50% to do a preventative maintenance, paving, whatever they want. That's the same as last year, but that is available. So if you talk to your townships and they want something done, it's a local road, remind them of this program, and they can call me and we can start that process. So still don't have an engineer. I have hired a consultant to work in the office 1 day a week and help out with projects and take some of that load off of me. But yeah, I'm still doing way more work than I should do, and probably not as much as I should do. So I think that's my report. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning, Matt.
Right?
What is the role of a general law township in the speed limits in their township? I know Eaton Township in particular has talked about some areas of Packard Highway. They'd like to see the speed reduced yet again. And what is their role in that?
So, yeah. I'll have to look that up. There is a new law where the townships can request a reduced speed limit. The law used to be it was set at the 85th percentile. And if somebody wanted a reduced speed limit, you'd request the state police to come out, do a traffic study, and go through that process. That's still the same process, but the township can request the speed be set at I believe it's the 50th percentile, and I'll have to confirm that, but they can request that. Road commission doesn't have to oblige, the state police don't have to oblige, but the township can make that request anyway, so.
Okay, is that the same for a charter township?
Yeah, I think it's all townships. Yeah, charter townships they don't set speed limits, they don't do anything like that. It's not, cities, I believe, can set their own speed limits, essentially whatever they want, but with the townships and road commission, it's not the case.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other, yes, Commissioner Woodring.
I do. Yep.
I'm just wondering what the policy or the practice is around repairs in, like, our neighborhood, there was some holes already after just a couple of weeks of paving the holes. So so someone calls up, how do you approach there? How do you take care of it? Because it's kind of a quality thing, you spend all this money, it shouldn't be like that.
No, so there's holes in the new pavement, like a newly paved asphalt road? Yeah, I definitely call the office, because we will address that. That's absolutely a quality issue.
Before you sign off on it or anything?
Yeah, and when we're done, it should be in good shape. So I'm not sure what holes, I guess I'd have to look. So, and I have no idea what if you want to send me an email, let me know where, we'll definitely look at it. But sometimes what can happen is the mill goes through, it really vibrates the ground. I mean, it's quite a big machine that makes a lot of noise and stuff. If there's a potential settlement or a sinkhole or something that we don't see on the surface, it can kind of open that up, and then once you pave it, shortly thereafter, it actually falls in.
Do you have like a crew that is just out there repairing things all day, or?
Yeah, we have crews that go out and do our maintenance, so pothole patching, things like that. So again, it depends if it's a 5-foot deep hole, they're not gonna be able to fix that, but if it's a pothole or something, they'll fix that. And if it's just a pothole in the asphalt surface and it's new asphalt, yeah, that's a problem, and we'll definitely address that. So, yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Probert.
Hi.
Hi.
I've met you
Hello.
before.
Yeah, once or twice.
Once or twice. Okay, so Commissioner Mudray and myself both talked to you at Delta Township. And did you check on the marketplace striping yet to see? I was there the other night and
Yep, I did, and I didn't apologize, I didn't get back with you on that. They say they match the MDOT specifications for materials and reflective beads and all that.
okay,
Don't really have anything to prove them otherwise is part of the problem.
okay, because you got the same thing on Willow.
Yeah, I went through Marketplace and the pavement markings didn't seem to stick very well or something, so it's something we'll have to look at definitely for next year. And
Yeah, it really does. Okay, so I can report back to Mark on that one.
yeah, let them know that I did look in it, and
Okay.
the contractor claims they followed all.
Right, I'll bring the contractor out there on a rainy, dark night.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I'll say, I'll meet you at the other end on St. Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then there's some spots on Christ Road too that could use a little work. Just letting you know.
Where, for the pavement markings?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not pavement markings, just that they're, looks like they need some touch up.
Okay, because
I can't tell you right now exactly when, but a lot of times I come back from Lansing and I come up Mount Hope to St. Joe, and then I also use from St. Joe to Michigan.
okay.
I don't.
Yeah, St. Joe, so we paved all the way up to the freeway.
Uh-huh.
North of the freeway, from there up to M43 is the only section that hasn't been paved in the past.
There, it's probably in that
Probably in that
section
stretch.
that.
Then. Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Okay, I mean, just as you're trying to conclude, this millage right now that we're on, when,
Yep.
because it's gonna come up in 2026.
Yeah, and so Kreitz Road, the millage can't be used on Kreitz Road.
Oh,
It's only on the local roads and because Kreitz is a primary road, but because it's a primary road, we get more funding so we can actually,
Yes, and I do know, because I used to talk to Blair about,
yeah.
and that's why we did have to have that millage for the local roads.
We don't get enough funding to actually maintain them properly, so. that's what
For me, that's Kreitz Road's local.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Yeah, one more thing. I was contacted by a guy about, they wanted legislation to limit the amount of weight that trucks can carry in Michigan. Is that on state roads only, or,
No,
You know
I
anything
think they're
about
looking
that?
at all roads. So I got an email requesting comment or something on it as well, and I didn't comment on it. Some things I don't know if there's much benefit to do that. But, yeah, my understanding is it's all roads they're trying to reduce weight limits on. Which, I mean, if they're gonna reduce them on a state road, then they definitely should reduce them on a county road, because ours aren't built quite to that level, most of them, so. I don't know where it's gonna go. I think industry has a lot of, influence at the state level, so I think it's gonna be a real hard sell, honestly, but.
well, is there a movement to increase the weight limit for trucks?
There's always a movement for that, I think, so I don't know if.
I mean, we got trucks in Michigan that can't leave the state, so
Right.
how heavy do they want to go?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, but I mean, yeah.
All right, thank you.
To be heavier, yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Pro, right.
I weigh in on 69. Are they going to, it's not you, I know, but do you know if they're ever going to make a new lane in the driving lane between where you get on from 96 to Potterville?
As far as,
And they sliced all that up, but it's
Yeah.
still like this.
I don't know their plans. There's nothing in the short term to do that. They've essentially spent all their money, is my understanding. And so there's no immediate plan to do anything with
I
that.
like to drive in the driving lane,
Yeah,
or in the passing lane.
yeah, which I don't blame them. I mean, semis drive over. If I was on a semi, I don't think I'd want to be in the right lane either.
Right, gonna have a headache.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. You guys have my email and phone number. If you have anything, give me a call.
All right. Moving on to construction codes.
Good morning, everybody. I don't have a whole lot to report. You know, we're a little bit slower this time of year with our permitting and inspecting, which is obviously to be expected with the weather. The way things look, we're gonna be very busy this summer. I would like to mention, last month I talked about that we received that $50,000 grant. We have signed a contract with Progressive Companies to help us rework our zoning ordinance. I would expect, I'm hopeful that we're done with it before the end of this year. The other thing that I have is I started some conversations with the city of Grand Ledge. They approached me about doing the plan review, the permitting, and the inspections for the new wastewater treatment plant that they hope to start this summer. So I've had one conversation. I'm actually gonna meet with them again this afternoon. I wanted you guys to be aware of it. I did speak with the state, with the assistant deputy director, to make sure that we didn't need to do anything with the state of Michigan. She assured me that we did not, because it's a one-off project. It would just be a contract between the Construction Code Planning and Zoning Office and the city of Grand Ledge. Do you guys have any questions about that? Do you have any issues with me proceeding with that? Yes, Brian?
Commissioner Drosha.
I will say, Chris, I've got some concerns. I mean, you're right, it's a one-off project. Are we skilled enough at the county level to do that sort of thing?
Yep, we're doing plan review for wastewater treatment plant, a new one in Bellevue right now.
Okay,
It's, I know it sounds big, but it's just another project.
okay.
I mean, it's plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and building.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same stuff we do every day. It's just a little different.
Doesn't the EPA regulate that sort of thing?
Yeah, but that's all done through, that's already gone in front of them before it comes to us.
Okay,
The engineering firm takes care of all that.
okay. So you just have to follow the blueprint, make sure they do all.
Correct.
All right,
Make sure they're putting the right size footings in and all that fun stuff.
all right, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna have Brandy come, Ms. Miller right now, talk about some of the zoning stuff we've got going on.
Hello. In our report, you have the 2024 Annual Planning Commission report, which includes the activities from the Eaton County Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals from 2024, the number of meetings that we've had, the types of cases that they've heard. In the 2024 report, you'll see that last year we did a significant amount of updates and improvements to our zoning ordinance to make things easier for property owners in Eaton County. Are there any questions about the annual report? Perfect. In addition, I did fail to put in our monthly report that the Planning Commission at the January 14th meeting considered and approved or recommended approval to the Board of Commissioners 12 PA 116 applications. The total of land was 572 acres, and the properties are located in Carmel, Chester, Calamo, and Vermontville townships. And the applicants were requesting the property to remain in the farmland open space preservation program for 90 years. So again, the Planning Commission recommended approval to the Board of Commissioners for those applications. In addition, with the recent talk, well, not recent talk of budget cuts, but with the talk of budget cuts, the failed millage in November, and then the upcoming millage in May, our office has been approached by several of the 11 townships that we currently have planning and zoning activities for about what does that mean for planning and zoning activities in Eaton County. There are concerns that it may be cut and may go away. Of the townships that have asked, they are willing to pay for services. Mr. Garrison and I have been researching what does that look like? Can it be done? And the answer is yes, it can be done. Will it take some work on our department's behalf and working with the controller's office? Absolutely. Currently, our budget, I think, for planning and zoning is $165,000 for the 2024-25 fiscal year. Within that budget is $22,000 that is budgeted for professional services. That professional services is specifically for court-ordered cleanups. I currently have 3 active court orders for cleanup of properties, 1 in Eaton Township, 2 in Walton Township. I do not expect to have to use those funds. Sometimes it just takes the court order to get the property owners to really bear down and work with me on a corrective action plan. And usually when that happens, I can find services for them to have the property cleaned up at little to no cost to them. In my tenure, I have only had to execute 1 court order for cleanup of 2 properties and 1 court order for the demolition of a building. The 2 properties that were cleaned up were in Sunfield Township, and the demolition of a building was in Calamo Township. So we expect to have a package together to submit to Controller Sobey next week to just kind of give our thoughts and ideas about what does it look like if we start charging for services for the townships to continue county zoning services. I also think it's important to note that discontinuing county planning and zoning services would not only be detrimental to the townships and the property owners, but it would be detrimental to our functions in the construction code department as well. There are a lot of planning and zoning aspects that go into the regulation of our permitting services that we offer in the construction code department. It would also be detrimental to the economic development in Eaton County. Applications like PDR, those are actually addressed in the Planning and Zoning Enabling Act PA 116 applications would no longer come to the county either. So those are things that should be taken into consideration when looking at the planning and zoning budget. Any questions?
The one question that I would have is before they begin doing work and add work to my office, is this something that you want Brandy and Chris to begin work on? Because it's not going to be a simple process for them, and I don't want to do something unless this committee is interested in them moving forward with that.
So I would open the floor to the commissioners to hear your thoughts on, do we, the Planning and Zoning Office in the future, maybe go to a, like a contract base? Is that?
Correct, it would be a contract.
Contract in between your office and the individual townships to
Yes.
provide that service?
Yes, so again, nothing's been approved, and I haven't given any information to the controller's office, but just off the cuff, nothing official, $15,000 is what it would take to not only cover our current budget, but allow for extra. That would not, mine and Mr. Garrison's thought process is, we would continue the enforcement, meaning the writing of tickets and whatnot, getting complaints. But the contract would include that if we did have to go to court, that burden of cost would fall onto the townships. If we did have to enact the court order and do a cleanup, that burden of cost would go to the townships. Right now, if we enact a court order and do a cleanup, all of those costs are filed as a tax lien on the property. It's recorded, it's given to the township treasurer, and it goes on the property's tax bill. But as we all know, people have 3 years to pay their taxes, so it could be 3 years before we see the return in that money. The townships that have asked, and I've had very honest conversations with, they understand that, and they are comfortable with not only would they pay X amount, but they would pay for the court cost, and if they chose for me to enact the court order, they would pay for the cleanup costs as well.
So is there any commissioner that has any questions about that, or any concerns, or would like to speak on that? Yes, Commissioner Christensen.
So you're saying it would go to the township. Would that be cities as well?
We have been approached by at least one city and 2 villages. With the update of our zoning ordinance, so we could contract to enforce a city and villages. We could do that right now. Unfortunately, our city and villages, the ones that are asking, their zoning ordinances are so far out of date that they're struggling to even make the required updates, okay? But with our zoning ordinance, with the grant that we have for MISHDA for the Housing Readiness Grant Program to update our zoning ordinance, we could tie in some things from those cities and villages. They could actually repeal theirs and adopt our ordinance. They wouldn't be adopting the county zoning ordinance. They would take our document and adopt it as their zoning ordinance and then contract with us to enforce it. So yes, the thought process with that would be if a city or village chose to do that, approximately $20,000. And then the same thought process, if we did the enforcement, they would be responsible for the court costs and any kind of cleanup.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Pearlbright.
Trying to figure out, Brandy, if you're going to write them a contract ahead of time before we do our budgeting then?
Yes, we actually have sample contracts.
Okay. So we would be sure that your services would still reside here for what you plan to do.
Correct.
So we're not waiting for them to come in like 3 months, 4
Correct.
months into the year and then go, oh, well, I guess we want a contract, because then we wouldn't know how to operate you.
Correct.
Okay. I just,
Something else that's important to know, we do a monthly report, not only from Construction Code, but Planning and Zoning, and that monthly report gives you just a synopsis of some of the applications that we've reviewed and received. What that monthly report does not give you are all of the property owners that come in to ask, what can I do with my property? They have hopes and dreams and things that they want to do, and we spend hours with them. And those do not come to fruition for applications, whether it's a land division, lot line adjustment, lot combination, a private road, a new subdivision, a new business that may come in. That synopsis is only of the applications that come to fruition to go in front of one of our boards or one of our approval processes.
So you'd be able to kind of figure out how many work hours is being used by each township as you write the contract?
I don't know that we would take it that way. It would be each township would pay this for this service. If we took on the city or village, each city or village would pay this for this service. And something else that I think gets missed sometimes with planning and zoning is, or the construction code department, is we have the opinion that we work for them, right? We do in fact work for our townships. And while we don't have planning and zoning jurisdiction in the cities and villages, we still work for them because we have the construction code services. So staff also spends hours working with these cities and villages that do not have full-time planning staff in, well, how do I do this? How do I do a land division? How do I allow a subdivision? How do I rezone a property to commercial to allow a Dollar General to come in? So we also spend countless hours right now for free with that as well.
Thank you for that insight.
You're welcome.
Jane has a question.
Yes, Commissioner
Whitaker.
Sorry.
Hi. So, listening to this, it sounds to me like, well, I guess what I'm asking you is, do you feel that this change is it a financial change? Is it a customer service change? Is it a staffing and efficiency change? And you can't say all of that. You have to.
It is a financial change. So Eaton County has done planning and zoning at countywide level since 1959. And we have never charged any of the services. We have application fees, and our application fees still remain to be lower than any in our surrounding area. And we have applications and services that we provide that we don't charge for. We don't charge for agricultural exemptions, but we charge $20 for a zoning referral. An agricultural exemption is essentially a zoning approval. We charge $500 to do a district change amendment. That's either an amendment to our zoning ordinance. Most of those are done by the Planning Commission. But that would also be amendment to the zoning of a property. That's $500, and those applications alone, the district change amendments, those are considered by not only our townships, the Planning Commission, this body, and the Board of Commissioners. And it's a very long, extensive process. That process alone is about 2.5 months, and 2.5 months of staff's time. Conditional use permit is a $400 application. That requires site plan review, that requires the Planning Commission's time, that requires public notification, not only in a paper, but at mailings within property owners that are within 300 feet. We charge $400 for that application. It probably cost, if I had to estimate, I want to say we actually had a consultant back when Ms. Pig was here. She had a consultant review our application fees, and the consultant came back with astronomical fees that just would not be something that a property owner, if they wanted to operate a business, could afford. Something like $2,000 for a conditional use permit. Not our goal.
So are these contractual services that you are proposing, we seek, are they going to charge a different set of fees, or what is their role going to be in all that?
So the fees, our desire would be that the fees would be the same and consistent. They would be dependent upon what service we went through or what the contract looked like. And keep in mind, this conversation has just started with the Controller's Office last week, I can't remember. And we've just recently been approached by our local jurisdictions to ask the question because they're concerned.
I guess I don't understand whether this is, why wouldn't we just raise our fees, number one? Why wouldn't we, is this about having fewer cases, fewer things to do? Or I don't see how, if we're just going to, is this about not charging fees, or I'm still not.
It's about funding the planning and zoning without being a burden on the taxpayers. It is my understanding that because of conversations that have occurred with our public board, that one of the items that may be cut are the planning and zoning services. So with that concern, the townships have reached out. Could they consult with another firm and get the services that they receive at Eaton County and only pay $15,000? No, they could not. So it's a way to keep the cooperation, make sure that we have the assistance to not only our townships, our cities, and our villages, but mainly our property owners, without causing more burden on the townships.
So, just make a statement. So when we're talking about this, if you recall, in any budget process that we've gone to when we've had a situation come up where we're not going to have enough money, the board and the consideration that you have to look at is what is a mandated and what is a non-mandated service. Planning and zoning and junk enforcement is non-mandated. So if you're going to look at making cuts, those are where you're going to cut first, right? You're going to look at what services we provide that the entity that we're providing them for can do on their own. And what Brandy and Chris have been talking about is contracting. Because if townships can't do it on their own for less than the amount of money that we could, can we still provide the service, break even, and keep everything consistent? There are concerns, and they're actually looking at it. If you have all 11 townships or cities who adopt, say they adopt the zoning ordinance that we have, it's under them, but if they want to change it, then what Brandy is going to have to do is she's going to have to look at every one of those, assess it, before she goes out and does anything in that jurisdiction. So in our discussions, full transparency, in doing this, she's looking at having to add staff. Because right now, she splits her time, and Tammy, who works in the office, their time is split with construction code and the general fund. So the amount that we're talking about, that $166,000, that amount of money is covering part-time 2 individuals. If you have to add individuals, that amount's gonna go up. So anything that they do to try to cut costs, to try to change services, will likely result in an increase in staff, and that's per our discussion. So you're going to be looking at a overall plan to help each jurisdiction, rather than just doing it the way we're doing it right now, where we just cover everything. They're under our ordinance, which is what they're choosing to do, because they could go out on their own and do something. But in this decision, it would be to actually have them pay for those services. So those are considerations that the board is going to have to start making. This is what we've been saying for years, but for the last 2 years, that if we do not have additional revenue, the only thing we can do is cut. And based on the amount of money that they bring in revenue-wise now, it is going to be difficult for a permit for any type of charges to take that up to enough to fund those, because otherwise you're going to make it so it's difficult for anyone to do something on their property, right? It's going to be too costly. So these are the things they're looking at. My point is, I don't want them spending time. They're willing to do this because they care about their jobs and what they've been doing, and they care about every local unit that's in the county. But I don't want them to do something that you're going to come back and say, we are not going to do away with this service, or we are not going to provide this service under a contract. I want them to know what this committee feels is best moving forward before they make a decision to work on contracts. I have to get it reviewed by my office. I have to get it reviewed by legal counsel. It's a process that they're going to have to go through, and they're going to be amping into construction season, and they are busy. I mean, Chris could say that they're not right now, but they are busy in what they do. And I want buy-in from this committee before they start. Fully willing to do it. I know, Brandy will say that. Definitely want to do it because it makes sense. But when we're talking about cutting costs, we've got to look at everything. I'll shut up now.
I appreciate that you have looked at it from that perspective, because we are going to. get to the mandated and non-mandated.
Commissioner Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Connie kind of touched on it a little bit, but, you know, she talked about needing extra staff. I want to know how this is going to shift the administrative burden, like what that change is going to be. And I think that if we can make it self-sufficient, right, I definitely want to explore this option. And my other question would be, is there a certain number of jurisdictions that would need to contract with us to make this feasible, right? Is there like an economies of scale thing going on if some of them want to, you know, do something different? Is there going to be an issue if a certain amount of jurisdictions don't want to work with us?
So, yes, so first I want to say, I am not slow. Chris, we may be slow in permitting and inspections, but I am always busy. In full transparency, I do my job at more than 40 hours a week and do not claim overtime to do my job. So the services that are currently provided are already not funded. So when we talk about adding the staff adding the staff would hopefully make that part go away. And planning and zoning has always operated in that function, okay? So for the 11 townships, I would say to make it work, at least 10 of them would have to buy in at the 15,000. If they didn't buy in, then we'd have to work the numbers. So the 15,000 per township is the perfect world of everybody buying in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was just wondering, I don't know, you know, if a township wants to strike out on their own, what would this service cost them, right? So I don't know at what point does that number get too large if you keep dividing it among, you know, a smaller number of townships? When does that become, you know, impractical?
So I haven't actually reached out to a consulting firm to ask what it would cost them or what it would cost a township for them to do everything that our office does, right? Not only would a township likely have to contract with a consulting firm, but they would also have to hire staff in order to continue to give their residents the same level of service that they receive from Eaton County. So it's not only going to cost them the consulting fees, it's going to cost them staffing fees as well.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm in favor of looking into this solution and pass it over to anybody else that has questions.
I'm going to do something first where I'm going to scold Brandy and Chris right now. You mentioned that you're working beyond your 40 hours and you're not getting overtime. You're a non-exempt employee.
Correct.
We've told you that that stops. I'm saying this in a public meeting because you said it. It's a violation of the Fair Labor Standard Act. So if you've been working 40 hours, I want those hours submitted, over 40, I want those hours submitted for us to pay you, or you stop working because that is wrong. You should be compensated for every hour that you work, and over 40 hours, it's a time and a half. So I'm stating that that is not approved by the county, the controller's office, or HR. So making that statement, and then I'll let somebody
And
else.
Connie is 100% correct.
Yes, and I'm mean. Because we have to follow that law.
Commissioner Mott.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I don't think we should do this. And the reason why, and thank you, Brandy, for looking into this. And I know your heart's in the right place and you want to provide the services for the townships. And it's an unfortunate situation that we're in. But one thing we have to keep in mind, we're gonna be asking departments to cut staff. Connie's office is underwater. They need another person to keep up with what they're doing. And although you'll be handling most of this stuff, it ultimately, those contracts come through her office. That's more work that her office has to do. If she loses another person in that office right now, it's disaster. And their stress level is high. And clerk's office will probably have to be looking at maybe doing something there too. So every department is probably gonna be looking at getting rid of some people. And that's gonna put more pressure and more workload on every single department. And you can try to quantify that if you can, but good luck, because you can't put a monetary figure on that. When people leave, the work still has to get done. We're gonna have to do some hour changes. There's a lot we gotta look at. And if we're gonna be adding more stuff, it just goes against what we have to do here at the county. So that's my opinion. The board can do what they want, but I think it's a wrong decision. We got bigger issues to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do agree to an extent with Commissioner Mott on staffing, but I want to steer this in a little bit different direction. You're involved with the Horner Mills thing in Eaton Rapids, correct?
I am not.
You're not?
I am not.
That's not at the county level?
No, that's land bank under the treasurer's office.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought through the foreclosure and the demolition that the county would be involved in that, but so the city's going to handle that exclusively?
I believe it's through the treasurer's office in the city. They're the ones working together on that.
Okay. Well, I was going to,
The city of Eaton Rapids does their own planning and zoning and their own building and trade permitting.
okay.
So
Well, I was
they're
going to
doing
ask you to use that as an example for your model, but I guess that won't work, will it, Brandy?
Will not.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, so I got a comment, or
Briefly, are we looking at privatizing the service? Is that kind of what all this stuff is? Or is it too early to say that?
No, that's what we have to do. When I have an executive team meeting and we're talking about what's coming, because even with the millage that's coming, the public safety prosecutor's office and animal control, it is not going to cover the rest of the offices. We have to make cuts. So offices are scrambling right now to protect their operation, to protect the services that they provide to taxpayers and to local communities, which is exactly to Brandy's point. I'm sure, you know, we leave here and she's gonna come in and we're gonna have a sit down and we're gonna hug each other and go over the fact that this is something that's going to stress her out if they're not doing it. It's going to stress Chris out because it's going to impact how they do construction code. So they're looking, every office right now is looking at how they can eliminate something that has a cost value and a time value. So they're looking, they're scrambling, and they're working. But I don't want them to move forward with something to waste more time. Brandy just said she's working more than her regular hours. We shouldn't be doing that. It's way too much. And if it's not a service that the board insists on providing for locals, then they need to know that and the locals need to know that. Because the locals are gonna have work to do on, if they wanna go out, if they have to go out of our zoning, they're gonna have to do a lot of work. So,
It's also going to require staff time
Yes.
to get them through that. So let's say you don't support it, and I'm not going to be offended. I just want to make sure that everybody has facts when a decision is made. Staff is going to have to work with our locals to talk about what does it look like for them to adopt a master plan and a zoning ordinance and have their own planning commission and their own zoning board of appeals. And keep in mind, our locals can choose to not have zoning, period. But then what does that look like? And then we'll have to look at repealing our county master plan, our county zoning ordinance. So this is, no matter which way we go, it's not an overnight process.
okay, so since you don't have the man-hours or the bandwidth to do this task as is, and you sprung it on us at the meeting, we are not going to vote on a recommendation on what they do. If you wanted to get it on next month's agenda, I surely consider it then. But we are not going to vote on something that was just sprung on us at this moment. And the department stated that they don't have the man-hours in which to complete their current tasks and to do additional tasks. So that's where I stand.
I do want to note, the only reason it's not on the agenda is because it came up so quickly, but their concern was that locals were approaching them, so they didn't want to let it go another month. But yes, I agree, it was not on the agenda, so the discussion would occur as an agenda item, you're correct. Yeah.
Yep, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on. Number 8.
Morning, everyone. Jared with the Department of Resource Recovery. Just some general updates. We are developing our programs and scheduling out our year, and notably changing from last month, we are working on our education with our solid waste ordinance. We are required to provide education to the communities in the county, and so we are in talks with the Parks Department Eaton County Parks Department for their summer camp programs, the City of Charlotte for their summer camp programs, and we are working with Eaton County Conservation District on events and education programs. Solid waste ordinance licensing, to date, all of our applications are in. We're working actively with 2 haulers that are in non-compliance. And what it takes to get these haulers in compliance, we're looking at, we need to have updated insurance policies in order for them to operate in the county. And so we're working with them to make sure we get their updated insurance policies before we issue licenses. And those 2 are Daggett Container Service and Republic Services. And to date, the department has issued licenses to College Hunks Hauling Junk, Granger Container Service, Jim and Sons Pickup Service, Knight Transfer Services, LeBron Trash Hauling, Liberty Environment, and Waste Management. So those are the haulers that are licensed to operate in the county. For our solid waste ordinance reporting, reporting is due for the second period of 2024 on the 15th of January. The department has received reporting from all but 2 haulers, and again, we're in contact with the haulers who are in non-compliance to receive their full reports. County projects, our programs, this is where our countywide recycling events fall. We are confirmed for everything but our scrap tire grant, and the scrap tire grant is not on our end, it is on Eagle's end. They have not released a scrap tire grant. And typically what happens is Eaton County Department of Resource Recovery applies for the grant, and then we work with Berry County and Clinton County, and we act as administrators. So we're actively working in the region, and so we're still waiting on that grant, and so is Berry and Clinton County. But as far as our events, our spring cleanup will be May 10th in Delta Township at the Delta Township Road Commission site, and it's located in close proximity to the recycling center. So we're working with their Parks Director, Marcus Kirkpatrick, and we're gonna be taking scrap metal, yard waste, household hazardous waste, electronic waste, and we are hoping for scrap tires. And then Recycle-Palooza will be right here in Charlotte at the Road Commission here on August 9th. And with that, we're gonna hopefully be taking scrap tires, household hazardous waste, electronic waste, and scrap metals. So we're gonna be promoting the events in March, and we have a registration system. So, and our county events, our recycling events are free and open to the public. There's no charge for county residents. However, if they do have electronics that are very large and heavy, it does come with a cost for the county to recycle. So we do ask for suggested donations, and the community every year has been very generous with some donations to help with the recycling of electronic waste. Our local projects, which is our solid waste alternative grants, all of the grants have been approved, and the first quarter funding is in the process of being dispersed. These are based on the fiscal year, and the department and the county is currently funding recycling centers in Bellevue, Olivet, Charlotte, Delta Township, Eaton Rapids, Grand Ledge, and Sunfield. Our mobile recycling program, which is set up to serve rural areas in the county. We continue to operate the program in Vermontville, Eaton Rapids, and we're working on converting the Bellevue Olivet Center over to utilizing our trailer. Our fourth quarter grant reporting was submitted to Eagle on January 31st, and to date, we actually just emptied it yesterday, so we actually have over 7,000 pounds of materials recovered from landfills that we, with our county programs, bale and sell directly to manufacturers to be remade into new materials. The remaining balance on the grant will be released with the submission of the final report to Eagle. Eagle just needed 6 months' worth of data, so we've been taking data on everything that we've been doing and sending it with our reports. There's about $6,000 left in that grant, and it's a required retention, and so we're anticipating, hopefully next quarter, we'll be able to spend the remainder of the $6,000 on equipment. We've learned a lot with the trailer, what works, what doesn't work, what materials are good, what we need more of, and so we have a good idea of how we want to spend that additional $6,000. The hub and spoke development, we're continuing to receive county and regional materials at the Sunfield Recycling Center. We are increasing our volumes. We are getting in quite a bit more materials than we have over the last few years, and the department's exploring how to increase efficiencies and eventually scale up some of these programs. So we're looking at equipment, staff, and other ways we can efficiently manage increasing the materials. And finally, the materials management plan. Our materials management planning committee is meeting on Tuesday, February 11th in the Board of Commissioners room at 3:00 p.m. And again, last meeting, we had to cancel. People were sick and out of town. We could not make quorum. And it was also a snowstorm that morning. So all factors worked against us in having this first meeting. So next Tuesday, I am very much looking forward to having our first committee meeting. And I've had this on the agenda for a couple months now, but we're gonna do officer elections, bylaws, and overviews of the material management plan and county operations. And that is my report.
Do we have any questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner.
I have Granger, so I wouldn't know anything about the other carriers that you mentioned at the beginning of your report. But does every single one of those carriers collect that fee for
Yes,
support of your department?
yes, so they're all involved with the solid waste ordinance, and collect,
Collect it like they
yeah, the
collect
ordinance
Granger?
fees for the
Okay.
department, yep.
Good. I mean, it helps with our programs to be able to expand more opportunities for our residents, so I was just asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none other, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to number 9, Parks and Rec.
Morning, everyone. So I'll give a brief update on what we got going on in parks. So currently, our park staff has been continuing our renovation efforts for the interpretive center. We're at Lincoln Brick Park. It's coming along nicely. We've got some cool exhibits that are being established. And once that is completed, I'll have our Deputy Director, Ethan Jacobs, come and give his presentation on all the updates we have over there. So again, in the meantime, if anybody wants to see the progress, we welcome anybody to come on out to the parks. We'd love to show you kind of what our vision is and what's been going on. Some pretty cool work. So lately, as I've been reporting the past couple of months, we've been really trying to branch out and meet with all the partnering and involved local groups around the county. So recently we met with the Grand Ledge Garden Club to discuss their plans of their plant locations that they will utilize in Fitzgerald Park and Lincoln Brick Park. I believe we have one planned for April 15th. Right now, that's the only one that has obviously they're involved with planting trees in memory of family members and stuff like that. So we do have kind of a set list of locations that we have given them approval to be at. And so we just kind of touch base again to rediscuss those locations. And then we also have a meeting with the Friends of Eaton County Parks about the middle of this month. I believe February 18th is the date we have set. The Friends group has kind of gone through a restructuring process. They have new people heading that group, so we are going to meet with them just to kind of reestablish our connections and talk about our partnerships going forward. Also, we've recently met with the Optimus Club. They have interest and help with funding efforts for the dog park that would be planned around the Crandall Park area. So we just started those discussions and are working on getting them quotes on fencing materials and stuff like that because they want to get involved to see how they can help with developing that park. We've also met with a group out at the Keeney Environmental area to discuss the boardwalk work that we've been discussing. They should be getting us a quote on that work by the end of this month. And we also have received quotes for the demolition of the nature center that's at Fitzgerald and the dock that is by the dam at Fitzgerald. So we now have price tags and have reached out to the finance department about reallocating some, if we can move some funds around to help support those projects. So things we got upcoming. The first week of March, myself, our Deputy Director Ethan Jacobs, and our Recreation and Events Coordinator Clara Alderman will be attending the MParks Conference up in Traverse City. For those of you who don't know what MParks conferences are, every month or every year, members from the recreation area around Michigan can go up. It's 2 days worth of educational seminars they'll sit in on. Usually right now we're conquering and dividing on which seminars we're gonna attend so we can learn some aspects of things that we want to accomplish, also how to better what we've got going on currently. And this year, we are actually going to be recognized and receiving the 2024-2025 Innovative Park Resources Award for the Pumpkin Chuck event that we held in November. So we'll be coming back with a little bit of hardware this year. So that's pretty exciting. So that'll be opening day at the welcome ceremony. They'll call us up, hand us the award, say a little spiel, take a picture, and then we're out of there. So we're excited to receive that. As I stated, we had the quotes for Fitzgerald Parks Nature Center. So now we can kind of go out and do the legwork of getting that scheduled to be accomplished. Again, our efforts are to get that accomplished before the construction and the expansion of the wastewater plant begins, because accessing the road down to the wastewater area may be a challenge at that time. So we want to kind of get ahead of that game so we can do the rebuild of a restroom in that area when the time comes. We got the quotes for the Keeney Boardwalk project, so that is going to be scheduled upcoming once we receive the funds for that. Upcoming programs we have Campfire Night this weekend on Saturday, and then a track trekking event, which is just bringing people out, identifying tracks out there in the snow and stuff, and helping identifying which creatures and what the wildlife is in our parks. And then we have, again, our trails and natural resource management. We have been in communication this week with our contact through the Natural Capital Forestry Department, just kind of clarifying some boundary areas in some of our parks, and he's going to be giving us his final report on his findings and throughout all of our parks to help with the reforestation efforts that we have going on. And then lastly, we have another event. We will be participating in Delta Township's winter event on Sunday, February 23rd. We're just going out there to be kind of a vendor for them and kind of showcase what we have going on. And if we get snow, luckily, I believe we will, we'll be able to kind of highlight how we have cross-country skis and snowshoes for people to rent. So give a good chance for people in the community to try something new. So last on my list today is our strategic plan update, which you will see we have members from Williams & Works here to help give a presentation, so I won't go in too much detail. I'll allow them to do that. So at this time, is there any questions so far for me?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. What's the status of that abandoned concrete plant down in Bellevue? And how are we going to isolate that from the Keeney Center?
Yeah, so we've been trying to reach out to the property owners. The number we had was not up to date. Recently, our deputy director and I met with Pat Terrell at the Dyer Kiln site, and she talked about having someone else that's trying to get contact information, which we now have we just reached out to the daughter of the owners. She gave us an updated phone number, so we're now reaching out to the family to discuss kind of the situations that have occurred at that property, to see what we can do with, first and foremost, we're going to ask to see if they can either put a fence around it or somehow isolate that area because of the issues that have been going on. So right now, we're just in communications with the family to see what they're willing to do and what we can partner on.
Okay. Do you anticipate them to be friendly towards us and go ahead and isolate that?
I'm an optimistic person, so I like to think so. However, trying to do a project like that, I know there's with the overgrowth in the forest around the area, it could be a challenge. So it's really just going to be, we'll start with a conversation and see what can happen. And then other than that, the best thing we can do on our end is just how do we minimize the access to that area from our property? I know the house lot that exists is an easy access point with a driveway that leads back to that concrete factory. And at that point, I know it's beyond our property, but as we do our efforts on our property, then that's pretty much all that we can ask.
Okay, it's going to be tough, I know, if we can't get them involved, because it's supposed to be a nature center. It's not much of a nature center when you got that ruin sitting there and a lot of intrusion back and forth. And I don't know how many people have been injured back in there of late. I know of 2, at least, recently. So is that a project that we're going to hold off on until we get confirmation from the property owners as to what they're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, this project isn't something that we had planned from the get-go. It's kind of, we just are trying to minimize the access back there at this time. So once we get the final cost of the removal of the boardwalk, then we can come to everybody and sit down and talk about if millage funds will be the appropriate way to access that. And then with communicating with the family, if that is something that we want to act on now, or if it's something we have to plan on in the future. Then what can we do in the meantime if that is the case?
What we're looking at doing is rerouting the boardwalk to a different entrance to a different part of the park so that you actually have to cross water to get to that side. And that would minimize access to it as well.
I would think so, yes, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so we had a house on Tallman Road where Main Street ends, and we took it down. And do we have any, or do I wait till the strategic plan people come and tell me what we're going to be doing with that property?
Yep, so in the strategic plan, you'll see that we do have a proposal for what we can do in that property.
Okay.
And then in addition, part of what we'll be talking about today, the Parks Department, we will be trying to acquire a DNR trust fund grant to acquire the farmland that is right there off of Tallman Road that's adjacent to the park. And one of the reasons for that is there is a section that the trail currently goes across, and that will help us with our proposal for the land.
So do you think cars will then park there where the house was?
Yeah, we actually,
Walk?
we have a parking lot currently. We after we tore down the building, we put a little gravel parking lot in that location.
Oh, I guess I didn't notice it.
Yep, so there's a parking lot currently.
Okay. In Grand Ledge, along Front Street, there's a pathway, like halfway down Front Street after you do the curve, going to Oak Park.
Okay.
So people can park there and walk down all the way along the ledges to actual Oak Park. And so then we'll just have to figure out what to do with the railroad tracks, because right on the other side of the railroad tracks was where the house was. So there's going to be some pathway if we can get the farmland and stuff all the way to Lincoln Brick, right?
So,
Does that make sense, what I just said?
no, I'm not too clear on with the property that you're speaking on next to the railroad. So I do not believe that is not our land or our trails.
No, we're on the other side. We're on the north side of the railroad tracks.
Correct.
then, if we took that house out. What I'm trying to tell you is that if you look on Front Street, halfway down, after you make the big curve, okay, there's going to be a cut in there with railroad fencing that you can go down on a pathway that'll take you all along the river there and bring you out at the city Oak Park. And that's where it ends.
Okay.
But that's on, like, my directions in Grand Ledger were weird, because Grand Ledger was weird. But I would say that that's the south side of the railroad tracks is where that ends at Oak Park. Do you understand? So if you walk right across the railroad tracks, like you're not supposed to, then that's where the house was. So then you're saying that you're trying to create a path all the way to Lincoln Brick.
So I think we're talking about two different areas. but I
Are
would-
we?
Yeah.
I think, let's look at the master plan that Malia has, and then if you have any
It'll be
questions,
better?
we can go over that after the meeting.
Because I was
The
just up
strategic
there in
plan
the
will-
fall and walked
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to move people so that they can walk.
Yeah, let's, take a look at the strategic plan and then.
Okay,
if you have
thank
more
you.
questions, let's meet offline about it.
I got one question. I didn't see it in the strategic plan. When are you moving the entrance to Crandall Lake off of Cochrane, or excuse me, off of 50 and putting it on Stewart?
On Stewart, so that would be, so the strategic plan will have it, the phases listed. Right now, I think phase one is to do the entrance off of Flanders into Crandall Lake on the west side of the park, and then the entrance that is going to be proposed coming off of Stewart is going to be a later phase. But right now, we have the current parking lot, that's still going to exist. And then first, the next parking lot and entrance is going to be coming off of Flanders, and then Stewart Road will be further down the line. To say a timeline of when that will happen, I can just tell you it's going to be one of the later phases, but first phase is for the western side off of Flanders.
Okay. All right.
That's the one on Flanders is planned to be the main entrance to the park, and that's the one they want to, are proposing we address first.
Yeah, because that'll lead to the future beach area and pavilion for people to have some public swimming.
All right, let's move on. Yep, move on.
I want to make sure that we understand that what we're talking about is the strategic plan for the parks. This is not you approving every one of these projects, and it's not approving the order of the projects either. So you're going to look at this is the direction the committee will look at taking, but any action to move on a project will go through the Board of Commissioners, because it will go through this committee and then to the full board, given consideration for expenditures that would come up. So before you go, Malia.
No, thank you, Connie. That's an excellent point to make. So, hi, everyone. I'm Malia Rakestraw. I'm a landscape architect with Williamson Works. We've been assisting in the development of the strategic plan. My colleague, Toby Hayes, who is one of our community planners, is going around and passing out a handout. It's a nice high-level highlight of the giant plan we gave you. So we can all kind of quickly get through some of this, because I know you have a full agenda. So I'll go through this handout with all of you, do some high-level, translation of what's in the plan, and then I'd love to be able to go back and talk about specific items with you, once we kind of get through this initial review. So we started this process almost a year ago. So really kicking things off in late February or March with our kickoff meeting, but doing an inventory of the 4 parks in question, specifically Crandall, Fox Memorial, Fitzgerald, and Lincoln Brick Parks. So we went out and did some audits in April, and then worked with the Parks Focus Group on several ideations of different design concepts for each park after gaining some community input. So on our first page here, we have the top slide, letting you guys all know which parks we're focusing on. Again, Crandall, Fox Memorial, Fitzgerald, and Lincoln Brick Park. And then the next one I do want to just touch base on really quickly, because the county also has a parks master plan, and then this is a parks strategic plan. So I just want to clarify for you all, you have a 5-year parks master plan, which is different than what we are going to be reviewing today. The parks master plan is what you actually need to be able to apply for DNR grants. So that gets updated every 5 years. It's very high level, so it's kind of a broad inventory of all of your park system. It does outline some actionable items to accomplish within that 5-year time period, and then that's usually what you focus on for your grant applications. The level of detail in the strategic plan that we're presenting today is a lot more comprehensive than what you might see in your parks master plan. So the strategic plan specifically dives into these 4 parks. They're your largest parks within your system. It dives into a more detailed audit, a visual audit, than was done for your master plan. It provides physical representation of concepts of what could be built out in the future, and long-term phasing. I think that's one of the biggest key components is your parks master plan, again, has that 5-year plan horizon. This strategic plan, we'd like to say, while things can be accomplished within those 5 years, it's likely going to take much longer to accomplish, some of these, high-level projects within this. So this could take anywhere from, 5, 10, 20-plus years to execute these, and we understand that things change over time, but the idea of establishing this strategic plan is it gives this body and future bodies a place to go back to and reference. So you always have something to act as a base guide and remind you kind of where potential opportunities can fit in and potential build out can happen. So with that, we'll go to the second page. So the second page, top slide, talks about contents. So specifically, the strategic plan has kind of 4 main components. We have that recreation inventory where we did that visual audit of each of these 4 parks. It has a community engagement section that details out the results of the things we heard from the community during our open houses. So we had 2 of those to kick off this process, plus reflecting back on your parks master plan, which had a great survey that was used for input on where to start in this process. The parks visioning chapter gives you those conceptual designs of each one of those 4 parks, really showing how those elements that are proposed could fit within that park space. And once you have those laid out in the plan, that allows you to start talking about phasing. Because while some things may seem really important, you also have to have the basic infrastructure and utilities to get to them. So it's a little bit of a balance between priorities and what the community would like to see first and what you can actually get to. So Crandall Park is a great example of where phasing really is important. So if we go to page 3 of this handout, Crandall Park really focuses on, we have our high priority of visible activation, so easy to install, relatively low cost, visible from the road elements that just let people know that things are starting to happen at this park, which I think is really important because it's been a highly anticipated build out. We have medium priority as water activation, and this is a great example of when I was saying high priority elements being, the beach, overlooks, launches, those types of things. While those are definitely what people want to see very soon, they're going to take a little bit of time to engineer, fund, and build out. So we would encourage you to start, diving into those kinds of steps while the high priority activation elements are starting to be implemented so that you're ready to go when able. And then low priority, we have our northern land activation. So that could include some of the spaces kind of beyond what's developed around the lake currently, including some sledding spaces, potential future interpretive center, a partnership for a potential campground, those types of things. So if you look at that next slide, on page 3, the bottom image, those are just some excerpts from the strategic plan. So on the left side, each park got its own concept. So we really focused in on kind of that rural nature and feel of the space surrounding Crandall, whereas the map on the right shows the illustration of the concept. So within this concept, we do have large-scale maps that are displayed on your screen right now that show things like the beach and play space, expanded trail systems, We have the formal launch and day use area, overlooks and potential dive spots, the Sledding Hill Interpreter Center, and again, camping up to the northeast corner. So a lot of activation, but a reminder that this park is over 400 acres. So really one of the focus for this design was creating areas of activity. So really more isolated nodes of activity and then spaces of passive use between them. If you flip to the following page, on page 4, there is an illustration of what a potential beach build-out could look like, where we're starting to activate the beach with rental elements like cabanas, swings along the walkway, utilizing the existing path to help contain that beach area as an expansion from the water to the pathway. A pier that goes out into the water really gets people out into that space, as well as an event center that could be used for rentals, have changing areas, bathrooms, concessions, those types of things. With that, I'll jump to Fox Memorial Park. So this park specifically, we were focused in on kind of the main use area to the west, not really focusing in too much on the capped landfill that exists there today, just knowing that there are some kind of additional nuances with that site that make long-term planning more complicated. So for Fox Memorial Park, our priorities were really more about providing better access and enhancing the maintenance at this park. Making the park more usable specifically around the pond that is very popular today, the swimming area, and then moving into medium priority areas like the woodland activation. So exploring things like expanded boardwalks through the wetlands, and providing better access to the mountain bike facilities that are there and expanding on those as well. For low priority, we had sky activation, making sure that those things can occur as able. So really, when we say sky activation, there's the observatory that have potential partners that you could work with in terms of kind of building up that asset. Fox Memorial Park is also a dark sky park, so which is very unique, especially for the area. So while, again, those are specific, unique assets to the park, they weren't necessarily things that were asked for by the public as much as maybe some of these other access points of getting circulation around the pond and expanding the beach and playground spaces. So if we flip to page 6, there's a rendering of the Wetland Trails illustration. So, and you'll see some small circles on the right-hand side of the page that illustrate the top one is the expanded beach area and playground and splash pad. The circle in the center shows an expanded and renovated observatory and potential gardens that could be built out there. When we look at the bottom circle, that's looking further east to mountain bike trails and providing more amenities around there, such as an additional pavilion, restrooms, and pump track course and skills course, so something that provides a little unique experience for mountain biking in a destination. Jumping to Fitzgerald. So this park has, a lot of already built out amenities. And so really that high priority for this park was connectivity and maintenance. So these were elements that were really requested by the community when we talked with them. This park is pretty well beloved, and I think people want to see it, really shine. So enhancing those existing trails that are out there, providing working restroom facilities, and creating connectivity between parks. So while I know the bridge has been something that has been discussed a long time between Fitzgerald and Lincoln Brick, it is something that certainly came up again multiple times during our conversations. So putting that, in view in early conversations is always helpful. Medium priority, so central activity areas. So this includes building upon some of the elements that are kind of in the middle/center of the park. So I'm sure as many of you know, the city of Grand Ledge has expanded some of their recreational assets surrounding Fitzgerald Park. And so being able to create better connectivity between those items, investing in these highly visual elements to help define Fitzgerald Park as the central community space, expanded playgrounds, a welcome center, trails, things that visually tell you when you have driven into Fitzgerald Park that you have arrived are something that we would consider, a primary asset in terms of medium priority. And then low priority we've defined as the park edges. So these are the spaces that are kind of further out and maybe functioning in their current state. I know the trails are definitely something that everyone loves about Fitzgerald Park and communicated to us very clearly during our conversations. And while some of those trails may need maintenance, they are functioning in their current state. And, so again, putting that as a low priority in terms of potential future consolidation of trails and additional enhancement of them. If you look at the image on the bottom of page 7, again, this is an excerpt from the plan and illustrates enhanced activity, again, upon entering the park. So we illustrate a welcome center, outdoor patio, pickleball, sledding mounds right front and center when you first arrive into the park. Additionally, some of these additional activity spaces include just to the east, a new Ledges trailhead. So making an accessible trailhead down to the Ledges Trail was something we had a lot of conversation about. Utilizing that existing maintenance drive seems like a great way to do that. Expanding play spaces near there as well as pavilion access really just establishes that as a true trailhead, kind of obvious to visitors when they first arrive. As we move north from there, pathways are shown throughout the park, really connecting each existing element and proposed element, which is something that feels more of a community asset and kind of creates this community park feel within Fitzgerald. So we do have a passive space nearby the existing former, Playhouse. So during our discussions, the Playhouse, while beloved, has been expressed to us the condition will require its removal in the future. But with that, a lot of our conversations surrounded preserving some of those elements from the Playhouse for future builds of an activity space, event space, or future outdoor playhouse within that existing footprint. So again, providing that kind of nod to history while, also creating something functional within the park was an important asset to that space. To the north, really focusing in on providing access to the river. So we had a lot of conversations with the wastewater treatment facility expansion and how that may impact the park. So a couple different phases are shown in terms of utilizing the existing sledding hill stair and enhancing that in the interim, and then a potential future switchback going down the hill to gain access to the pond to the north, and future trails that would lead to, again, a bridge across the Grand River, connecting you all the way up to Lincoln Brick Park. If we flip to the next page, 8, you'll see on the top there is an illustrative rendering of the trailhead, including some of that expanded forest playground space in conjunction with improved pavilions and some signage that, again, lets you know that this is the Ledges trailhead and this is where you can start. And then the last park we have is Lincoln Brick Park. So in terms of priority, we're talking about connectivity and maintenance. Similar to Fitzgerald, again, people just want to make sure that this is still a usable space. The trails are very beloved in this area in addition to that connectivity with nature. So the interpretive center today is well used. So continuing those programs, expanding those programs, and continuing to take care of the trails is really where we say, that's kind of that first task. After that, it's defining character areas. So we talked a lot about how to, bring the Lincoln Brick aspect to Lincoln Brick Park, building on some of the existing assets and artifacts, Using bricks to, illustrate sidewalks and to define specific areas is something that we discussed as this medium priority area, as well as establishing an outdoor museum. Low priority, we have a central play and picnic area. So that includes kind of the larger field area that exists with the small playground area. While these assets are important to this park, improvement to this area is a lower priority because those assets already exist in other parks nearby. So really focusing in on the trails, the nature spaces, and the education in Lincoln Brick Park becomes the higher priority over some of those other elements, again, just because they're offered in other spaces. You look down on the bottom of page 9, we have the site plan of Lincoln Brick Park, this concept. Again, it includes an expanded interpretive center, outdoor museum, consolidated trails, new play spaces, quarry overlooks, and floating docks to be able to get access to the water. A new trailhead at the neighboring, to provide neighborhood connections at that site that we discussed earlier with the former home. And again, that bridge access to Fitzgerald Park. Page 10 provides a rendering of a potential ruins museum, depicting a little safer access and kind of a cleaned up space that formalizes those artifacts for people entering the park and experiencing the history. So just quickly, next steps. So the intent is to provide some minor revisions as needed throughout the strategic plan, do a thorough document review, make sure we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's, and then with your support, adoption by the Board of Commissioners. So with that, I know I talked a lot. I would love to pass this back to you for any questions and comments specific to the strategic plan, which is also in the packet, so I know we can navigate to any specific pages.
Commissioner Mott.
Yeah, I've got to take off to go to another meeting, but I just want to say how important this is and how big this is. And I know sometimes we don't realize what we're actually doing, but this is going to be looked at for boards in the long future, long after we're gone. And this groundwork that we're laying here is just, it's huge. So I want to thank you for all the work you at Williams & Work have done. It's been a pleasure working with you. And all the Parks Work Group before that worked on it. I know former Commissioner Augustine, this was a passion of his. So I want to, thank him and the current board Parks Work Group that's going to continue it on. So yeah, this is phenomenal. And like I said, things are going to change, but finally we're going to get to see some groundwork happen, and I know the public is eager to see their tax dollars at work, and so we're happy to see it moving forward. So once again, thank you for all of your work. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none other, we'll move on to, thank you, and we'll move on to the DNR Trust Fund.
There is a resolution in the packet to adopt this strategic plan. Connie's got it up on the board right there, so that would need action.
Okay. Sorry about that. We got a motion. Do I have a second on the strategic plan? All right, we got support. All right, so all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the DNR Trust Fund application.
Yep, so Alex, I don't know if you want to talk about this at all, but the Parks Department, Eaton County, would like to apply for a DNR trust fund this year. All of the formal resolutions and hearing will be next month, but we just want to let you know of our intent that we will be working on that to submit April 1st. There's not a resolution, it's just, not yet.
No,
That'll
it'll
be
be
next
next-
month.
That'll be next. But we are going to have assistance in writing the grant because for several years, we've put in grant applications that have not met the criteria. So what we want to do is ensure that we have a better chance And the purpose of the millage was to try to have the funds to leverage any grant funds that we can. So the county generally is responsible for 25% of the cost of whatever project we choose. So we want to research these parks, the plans that they worked on, and see what best fits one of the parks for a project.
So do you want them to talk about the budget amendment, or you just want that to go to ways? Because there would be a budget amendment to hire somebody for up to 15,000.
Yeah, it still has to go to ways for the budget amendment, but, I mean, if we can move forward with hiring a consultant to take care of writing the proposal, we would appreciate that. If you're good with moving forward. It's just, okay.
So,
Just a motion to move forward, then we can do a budget amendment at Ways and
And
Means.
I amend my emotion.
Okay,
so
thank
we
you.
got the motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
All right, I have a second. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, no, I'm not opposing. I had a question.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex,
Yes.
before you run away, are we still on $250,000 for, like, even if we have 3 phases of a DNR trust fund grant, the most we can get is $250. Is that still $250?
No, it all depends, it's a range, for the type of grant that we could go for.
Okay.
Depending on what you're.
Different grants have different maximum, minimum amounts,
Yeah.
so that'll all be presented next month.
Yep. I was
Okay,
supposed to say that.
because it used to be when we did Fox Park, it was $250. When
It,
they
it all depends on what type of grant it is.
Yeah.
now, okay, thanks.
All right. Moving on to number 10, community development.
Yeah, so I'll just be brief. I haven't done a report to this group in quite some time, so decided to do something quarterly, and it'll be in line with an MVAA grant we got for the Veteran Service Office. Those quarterly reports, the last one was due in January, so decided to start that this month. So we do have a grant from the state of Michigan, from the Michigan Veterans Administration Affairs. We use the funding from the grant for a part-time administrative assistant for a financial assistance program with the veterans. They can come to us and apply for payment on their VA copays if they have had anything done at the VA hospital and have a copay. And we also pay for them to have visits over at the dental clinic. We use the money for some marketing efforts, for some office equipment, and then we also will allow veterans Meijer grocery cards in the amount of $100 per month if they meet those eligibility requirements. So that is a grant we have. We did not have any activity October through December because we did not have the grant back from MVAA to start spending. We just got that grant agreement back in January. So next quarterly report, we'll have some different numbers to report for you. Tom Lewis is our Veteran Service Officer. Tom had, over the quarter, over the 3 months, he had 176 personal interviews with veterans. He did 44 file reviews and did claim status checks on 38 claims. We served aging and elderly population of 12 and 3 female veterans. The other thing out of community development is housing and economic development. Housing, we did one home repair of a furnace replacement in Roxanne Township. This money comes from a previous grant that we had through MISHDA several years ago. And whenever those loans for those home repairs get paid off, it goes into a fund that we can put back out into the community through an emergency home repair program. So this is where that money comes from. And we did one furnace replacement up in the Roxanne Township area. Also, economic development. So just continue to work with LEAP and other agencies to promote Eaton County and economic development within the county from a regional level. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
We do have to go back to the PDR. The PDR. Yeah, I skipped that one, sorry. So also, I went out of order on the agenda. So we also have the PDR discussion. PDR is what they call a purchase of development rights. Its intent is to preserve farmland. So a property owner can apply for a purchase of development rights program on their property. We would apply for state funding and we would purchase the development rights on the property. They would continue to own the property, but there would be an easement on it restricting the development in the future. So it only ever could be used for farmland and open space moving forward into the future. Keith?
Mr. Chair. Claudine, is this similar to PA 116?
No. PA 116 is a tax program. This is an actual easement that's placed on the property that prohibits the development of the property. PA 116, it's in perpetuity, it's forever. PA 116 you can buy back out of. There are only certain strict requirements to get out of the PDR program.
So then once a parcel is placed in this program,
It's forever.
it can never be used for anything else,
Correct.
regardless of any other entity coming in and claiming eminent domain perhaps?
I'm not sure about eminent domain, but it's very strict easement on the property of what they can and can't do.
And this is controlled by the county or the state?
The county.
County, all right, thank you.
Yep. So the current application window right now closes March 7th. However, and we have done this program in the past, there are 3 preserved farms. I will add that due to the financial situation that the county is in, I think that we need to start reviewing the grants that we're applying for more closely. This would have staff time associated with applying for it and administering it, and it's not a grant that you apply for and you do for 2 years and you're done. This requires annual monitoring on the property. Somebody has to go out and I'm somebody, has to go out and monitor all of these properties and these farmlands, and it is coming down to a capacity issue for grants and what the board would like to see moving forward. Connie, did you want to add
Are you
anything?
recommending that we do this?
No, we're not. Right now, the capacity for the work that Claudine is doing and the rest of my office is doing, it's beyond. I can't explain to you how much work is going into everything. We went from one ballot proposal into another. That takes time. The amount of work that we're trying to do on the budget, we'll be discussing more of that at Ways and Means. It is beyond our ability to continue to do these things without additional help. So I am not recommending that we move forward with a resolution for PDR to do the grant.
Can you put the resolution?
It's not in here.
There's not a resolution because we changed the agenda from it being a resolution to just discussion. Yep, so there's not a resolution in there.
We don't have to do this now, anyway, right? We can do this again.
You can do it next year, yeah. I don't think it requires any action. If you're not approving us to move forward,
Right.
then we just won't move forward. So it doesn't require any action. Keith?
If we don't move on this year, is there any penalties or it's just something we need to do in the future?
No, however, it is something you may want to look into in the future. The PDR program and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority are also, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is also under community development. Those are programs that would have capacity issues moving forward with the financial circumstance and all of the cuts that we're proposing to make. And those, in the future, we may want to have a discussion about repealing both of those programs and not having them. And if we ever decided in the future we wanted to pick them back up, we could. But they both have boards associated with them that you appoint every year. The boards don't meet, but you still have to go through the process of finding people to serve and going through the appointments. So that's just one less thing if you wanted to have a discussion in the future about repealing those.
Okay, where can we get more information on this PDR thing? I want to do a little more research on this.
I can send you some stuff.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'd like to see it as well.
Sure,
We'll send it to the entire committee.
sure.
The other thing, and I don't know, Claudine, if I missed it, but the other thing is that this involves technology services.
It
an
does. It
entire day.
requires the assistance of the GIS person to go out with me when I walk the farm because it needs GPS points. It has to have pictures. It's an actual acquisition of the property. It would need a title search. It would go through a closing, just like if you were buying a house. So it's pretty cumbersome.
Okay,
Now that's all I have.
thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to number 11, the medical examiner.
So we have had a contract with, and I just saw on the resolution, it has Edward Sparrow. It needs to be changed to U of M.
No, I put the
you change
language
it?
in the resolution that was exactly in the amendment that they sent me.
Okay, that's odd. Obviously, Sparrow Hospital has been taken over by U of M, but anyway, if that's what they put in the contract. We went out for bid, did an RFP, because our contract was expiring and the cost had gone up quite a bit, but it's gone up for every other local unit of government that utilizes Sparrow's services. Obviously, medical examining is important, and the cost is the cost. So since we only received this bid, we've been with them, I would recommend that we move forward with utilizing the same services on the medical examiner. The amount that they put in the budget, I had a discussion with them, so I knew that the cost was going up. If it was going up with them, it was going to go up with any other entity that submitted an RFP, so there is enough money in the budget to cover their costs. I just need a recommendation or approval of the resolution, and it will go to the board.
So we're going to do the resolution and then separately do the contract?
It's both when you do the resolution.
Resolution includes appointing a medical examiner and 2 deputy medical examiners and the contract.
Okay,
So it can be one motion just to approve the resolution.
all right, so do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the Sparrow Medical Examiner contract.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, I have support. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 12, miscellaneous, future agency reporting.
So related to grants, what Claudine talked about, and I'm having a difficult time with my screen as well. I know that, yeah.
Black now, I pulled it up on my laptop.
Yeah, well, I did that too, and then it shut down too, so the iPads are not working. And I did put in a ticket for that. But I can't scroll into this right now. It's driving me crazy. So with grants, again, we're talking about there's money to, yeah, so there's, obviously we're accepting money, which taking money is great, but it does not come without work. You're going to be looking at mandated and non-mandated services as well. We want to ensure that reporting for any grant that is through any committee is done very specific. We have in the past not asked for reports from the different agencies that show you how much money they're spending and how they're spending it. So you give them the money, they'll come in and they'll give a presentation, but they're not actually saying how many people they served, how many homes they served in whatever capacity. So we're going to start moving forward, ensuring that you have all that information as you go to assess every grant. So there's a letter in here, Claudine, it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, so in this case,
you.
it's not necessarily about grants. It's about the funding that we put out to other agencies. So the funding for the health department, the funding for community mental health, all the different agencies, 211, United Way, those things. So what we're trying to set up is a system whenever they come and do their quarterly or their annual reporting or semi-annual reporting, depending on the agency, you are getting the same information from all of them in one form, and that they're actually, you are prescribing what information you want from them. So in the past, they just come in and do a presentation, and you may not get the same information from everyone. So we'd like to know how many people they're serving in the county, what the money is being used for, what does their budget look like? Are we contributing by giving them money, but they have a fund balance in their overall general budget. So we've put together some specific requirements that we would like them to provide coming to the board in the future.
And then what we put together right now is fairly basic. It's not really detailed, but if the committee or any other committees or the board wants additional transparency on what they're doing with the funding that you're providing, we would add that for anything that you're requesting.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, overall, I think this is great. And just to be clear, this is just a letter basically outlining that this is going to be coming in the future. This is what we're going to be wanting to see. I guess I'm looking at 1 through 7 here. I'd personally like to see, you know, it doesn't need to be super specific, but I know I see like number 3 is all this money spent in Eaton County and for Eaton County residents. Are we able to get like a geographic breakdown where it's feasible on where those services are provided?
We can work with the agencies on doing that. Some of them may have that through our mapping. But again, we might have to talk to technology services to map out those addresses. But yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah, as
So
long,
anything
where
like
where
that.
feasible. Where
Yeah, so anything like that is good, but you have money that's going to agencies that, like the health department, community mental health, you're dealing with juvenile millage programs, and some that are required and some that are not, and it's discretionary funding. So we just want to make sure, like you said, that you have all the data that going forward, full transparency on what the money is going to, and ensuring that it is relevant to board plans and also to the residents of the county.
I know you're.
Did I do all right?
Tired of us saying this, but it's back to the whole financial aspect of it. You need to know where the money's going and how it's being spent. So if we're giving someone $300,000 a year, for example, but they're only serving 5 residents, well, is that the best way that the county should be spending its money? So those are the things we're trying to pull out for you so that you can ascertain the best way to spend the county's money.
Can you scroll back up to page 1 just for a moment, please? Thank you.
This one?
Yes.
Keith, I think Jane has a question.
Oh,
Jane, did you have a question?
Well, it just seems to me that those questions are going to be really different in response if you ask the health department versus if you ask, you know, a small organization that we gave money to. And I'm just wondering if that matters. I'm just thinking out loud, kind of, 'cause, you know, if you ask the health department, they're going to have like an exhaustive list of a zillion things, and
Well, right now, when we receive a report, you'll hear about different projects that are being done, but you won't get specifics on the population. And with our health department, we're a district, so we have the Eaton side and we have the Berry side. You need to make sure that you understand what is happening in Eaton County. When we talk about this funding, again, we're giving around $700,000 to the health department annually, and we also do projects within the building, so those are added costs. To CMH, we're looking at, again, another $7,000 to $9,000 that we've had to give, some of the services in the jail. You should hear from CMH, how many inmates did they see? What referrals did they do? How are they benefiting? Are they making sure that the inmates are safe? Their mental health, so yeah. Yeah. There's not. So over the last 2 years, my office, this is something we've never done. We've been working on things like this because you have not been used to seeing a lot of reporting. And you've noticed that, and some of you I know are new, you've noticed that we've changed our financial reporting. If we're changing our reporting, we need to ensure that they're changing theirs. And some entities, yes, Commissioner Whitaker, they're going to have a difficult time giving information. We'll work with them, though, to ensure that they can meet the expectations that we have.
it just seems to me when you ask these open-ended narrative questions, that you're going to get all kinds of stuff that you don't really care about. Maybe it might make more sense to have a form online that they could fill out that had, you know, some bullet points or some boxes or things that would be, you know, make everybody's work, make reporting easier for them and make it easier for us to read and understand.
The questions that we put together were designed to do that. But again, we can change them however you want. But right now, and I'm not trying to be critical, but right now, these agencies that come in, they're doing great things, but they're not telling you how it's impacting your residents. They're not able to say, or haven't been required to say, this is what we're doing. We want to make sure that we're holding them accountable, because funding for programs, it's going to be cut. So if you listen to them and all you're hearing about good things that they're doing, how do you gauge if they need the same amount of money that they're getting today? So that's what we're doing, and that's that standard form. We will change that as we move forward, but for right now, this is what we have.
We have to start somewhere, so
Yeah.
we're more than happy to work with them.
But I agree.
So,
I'm not disagreeing with, I know totally what you want to do, and I think we have to do that.
so what I would like to do is I'd like to run this format for a couple cycles or a couple agencies to come in and brief, and then we can re-engage this issue to see if it needs to be refined. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. So just one other clarifying question from my understanding. Would this only be on the portion of funding, let's say they receive X amount of dollars from Eaton County, X amount from other sources, would they only report on the money like received from us, right? They're not going to report on, we can't really enforce them to report on money
So,
that came from.
let me give you a good example.
Thank you.
We don't have to have them report on that, but if they're receiving funding from the state, from grants, and they're maintaining a fund balance due to that, so we're giving them money, they have a fund balance, they're utilizing that money to do the same type of programs that they're utilizing the county funds for, you need to know if our funds need to be as much as they are. You need to be able to gauge that. So to your point, we want them to report on the funding that has come in from the county, but we also want to know what their fund balance is like and how much of this funding has gone, how much of their other funding has gone to services in Eaton County. Because you want to know that too. If they're taking our funds and they're leveraging that to do greater services, then that makes the amount of funds that we're granting to them more valuable, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to know the scope of what exactly we were going to get. So, does this need a motion at all?
No, we're just going to move forward, and if you disagreed, then yes, it would need.
Okay.
I agree with all this. It might be good to kind of begin with the end in mind and tell them either in their grant proposals or just, early on that we're going to be requesting this information from you.
Oh,
Put it in the way that we want it.
this will be going out to all of the agencies.
It'll be going out now, so that's
Correct.
why we started with the road commission this month. That's why Matt mentioned he was a month early. I asked him if he would come this month instead of next month, so we can get these letters out now and give those agencies an entire month before so they can work on preparing the information.
Yeah, and it was better to start with him because the county does not appropriate any money to the road commission.
Will also just note that you will also be seeing something similar done for departments when they want to apply for grants. So at Public Safety, tomorrow, there are a couple different departments requesting to apply for grants, and we have something similar set up for those that the departments are gonna have to start filling out. So it's the same questions every time, and you'll have them in the same format every time, and it'll be easier for you to ascertain what the grants are really asking for and what the financial impact is.
All good stuff.
It might be good when they fill that out, or if they fill it out, I don't know, you didn't state that that's your requirement. You stated that that would be the format in which they brief. But if you did add a requirement for them to fill in those, abbreviated, some of those open-ended questions, if they could give us abbreviated, and then that way it could be in the packet, that way some individuals could see the numbers prior and to formulate questions. So when they do come brief, we can ask poignant questions and not waste their time or our time.
Right, that's part of their reporting. They give us a report now. This will be part of that report that they'll have to bring. So yes, definitely.
So we can narrow it down. Okay. Any other, yes, Commissioner?
Honey, it's kind of like when truancy intervention program comes, they always have the ability under, when we're talking the juvenile justice millage allocations of how many students were served and parent programming, and how many attended, you know, and also how many of our parents were assigned to a CMH person, because we also have a component in truancy intervention for our CMH support staff. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Okay, 'cause they do a good job.
Yeah, the TIP programs now, what we found out last year is that that's now a required component for our whole juvenile justice system. Judge Pollard spoke on that last year. So TIP is something that we need to fund, and we've been utilizing the juvenile justice millage for that. But that's going to be a continued program that we may fund differently. Programs that have been funded historically in the millage have been like the housing program. And what are they serving? I mean, they may tell you what they're doing, but who have they served? How many? What have they used in the funds?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Moving on, we're at number 13, public comments. If there's anyone that'd like to make a public comment, please. All right, seeing none. Then we're on to number 14, adjourn. All right, thank you.